Dodge has always been known for its bold, no-nonsense vehicles, but between 1977 and 2008, the brand produced some truly strange additions that left car enthusiasts scratching their heads. From convertible trucks to turbocharged hatchbacks, these oddball models push the boundaries of what we thought was possible or even sensible in the automotive world. Dodge has always been a brand that stood out from the crowd, often pushing the boundaries of what we expect from cars. From muscle cars to family sedans, Dodge has made some truly iconic vehicles, but they've also produced some additions that were downright strange. Some of these cars were ahead of their time, while others might have left many scratching their heads in confusion. Whether it was because of the design, the features, or just the general idea, these strange additions from Dodge, 1977 to 2008, are still remembered for their quirks. Let's take a fun trip down memory lane and check out some of the oddest and most interesting Dodge additions from that period. Number 1. Dodge Marada, 1980 to 1983. The Dodge Marada is one of those cars that probably makes you think, what was Dodge thinking? When it was first released in the early 1980s, the Marada was intended to be a personal luxury coupe to compete with cars like the Chevrolet Monte Carlo. But it didn't quite fit the bill. The Marada looked like a mixture of too many different car styles, with a front that looked a little too similar to the Dodge Aspen sedan, and a rear that borrowed too much from European designs. Add to that the fact that the car never really lived up to the expectations in terms of performance, and you have a recipe for a car that quickly disappeared from the market. What made the Marada truly strange, though, was that it was available with a variety of different engine choices, from a fairly tame 3.7-liter six-cylinder to a more powerful 5.9-liter V8. But no matter the engine, the Marada never really wowed buyers with its performance or style, which is why it's often remembered as one of Dodge's stranger experiments. Number 2. Dodge Raider, 1987 to 1990. Dodge has been known for making tough, rugged vehicles, but the Raider was a strange one. If you've ever seen one, it might make you do a double take because it looks strikingly similar to the Mitsubishi Montero. That's because the Raider was basically a rebadged version of the Montero that Dodge sold in the United States. It was marketed as an off-road vehicle, but it had a strange mix of luxury features that made it feel out of place in the off-road world. The Raider came with a 2.6-liter four-cylinder engine, which wasn't exactly impressive in terms of power, and the ride quality was more suited for city streets than bumpy trails. Despite being marketed as an off-road vehicle, the Raider was too refined for true off-road enthusiasts, but not quite luxurious enough for those who wanted a smooth ride. It never really took off in sales, and Dodge quickly moved away from the Raider after just a few years. Number 3. Dodge Aspen, 1976 to 1980. The Dodge Aspen was another one of those cars that didn't really live up to expectations, and it became an odd chapter in the company's history. The Aspen was Dodge's answer to the growing demand for compact sedans in the late 1970s, but unfortunately, it wasn't particularly remarkable in any way. In fact, the Aspen was often criticized for being a bit of a letdown in terms of both design and performance. The Aspen was available as a two-door or four-door sedan, and it featured a fairly standard range of engines, including a 3.7-liter six-cylinder and a 5.2-liter V8. The weird part, though, was the way the car was marketed. While other automakers were focusing on building more fuel-efficient, environmentally friendly cars, the Aspen came with poor fuel economy, and the styling was a little too bland. This combination of features made the Aspen feel like it was stuck in the past, and it quickly became a model that Dodge would rather forget. Number 4. Dodge Lancer, 1985 to 1989. Now, we're diving into a car that might surprise some of you, the Dodge Lancer. This compact sedan was meant to take on the likes of the Honda Civic and Toyota Corolla, but it ended up being one of the more curious choices in Dodge's lineup during the late 1980s. Why? Because the Lancer just never quite seemed to fit in with the rest of Dodge's offerings. The Lancer was available with a variety of engine options, from a small 1.6-liter four-cylinder to a slightly more powerful 2.2-liter engine. But despite being fairly fuel-efficient, the Lancer never gained much popularity. Part of the problem was that the car didn't offer much in terms of design or features, and the ride quality was often described as unrefined. While it wasn't a total failure, the Lancer's strange positioning in Dodge's lineup made it an oddity that few people remember fondly today. Number 5. Dodge Neon SRT4, 2003 to 2005. Okay, let's talk about a car that's a little more recent and definitely got some attention back in the day, the Dodge Neon SRT4. At first glance, the Neon might not seem like a car that would belong in the world of performance cars. But Dodge gave the Neon a high-performance makeover with the SRT4 edition, packing a turbocharged 2.4-liter four-cylinder engine that made 215 horsepower. That's a lot for a compact car that was originally intended as an affordable entry-level sedan. But here's where the weirdness comes in. The Neon SRT4, while fast, was still a basic economy-focused car at heart. It had a rough ride, cheap interior materials, and didn't offer much in terms of refinement, but what it did offer was a great performance-to-price ratio. It was one of the few budget cars that could keep up with much more expensive competitors on the track, and despite its rough edges, it gained a cult following. The Neon SRT4 was definitely one of those oddball cars that had its flaws, but still managed to be fun to drive. Number 6. Dodge Durango RT, 1998 to 2003. The Dodge Durango has always been a solid option for those in need of a larger SUV, but the RT version of this SUV was an oddball addition to the lineup. The RT trim was supposed to give the Durango a sportier, more performance-focused feel, but the results were a bit strange. While the regular Durango was a family-oriented SUV with plenty of space and a decent engine lineup, the RT version didn't quite live up to the expectations of those looking for a true performance SUV. The Durango RT came with a 5.9-liter V8 engine, which gave it some decent power, but it never quite felt like a true performance SUV. The suspension was too soft for spirited driving, and the interior was fairly basic for a vehicle trying to position itself as sportier. While it was a fun vehicle in its own right, the Durango RT was an odd attempt to blend performance with practicality, and it didn't quite hit the mark. Number 7. Dodge Dakota Sport Convertible, 1990 to 1991. Now, here's a strange one. The Dodge Dakota Sport Convertible. Picture this. A pickup truck with a convertible top. Sounds odd, right? That's exactly what Dodge thought would be a good idea in the early 1990s. The Dakota Sport Convertible was essentially a normal Dakota pickup truck, but with a retractable roof that made it a rare hybrid between a truck and a convertible. While the idea of a convertible truck was certainly unique, it didn't really catch on with the public. The Dakota was a decent truck, but most buyers didn't see the point in having a convertible version of it. It had a small 3.9-liter V6 engine and was more of a novelty than a practical vehicle. Dodge only made a few thousand of these convertibles, and after 2 years, they stopped production. Today, the Dakota Sport Convertible is remembered as one of Dodge's more bizarre attempts to stand out in a crowded market. Number 8. Dodge Caliber SRT4, 2008. Lastly, we have the Dodge Caliber SRT4, a car that may have seemed like a good idea on paper, but turned out to be another strange experiment. The Caliber was a compact hatchback that Dodge introduced in the mid-2000s, but the SRT4 edition was a performance-focused variant that packed a turbocharged 2.4-liter four-cylinder engine, making 285 horsepower. Despite its impressive power, the caliber SRT4 just didn't hit the mark. The car was a rough ride with a cheap interior, and the suspension was too stiff for everyday driving. The performance was there, but the overall package didn't make sense for most buyers. It was another case of Dodge trying to take an everyday car and turning it into something much more aggressive. Unfortunately, the caliber SRT4 didn't live up to expectations, and it was eventually discontinued. Dodge has always been a brand willing to take risks, and that's what makes these strange additions so interesting. Whether it was a luxury coupe that didn't quite make sense, a convertible truck, or a turbocharged hatchback, these oddball additions show that Dodge was willing to experiment with all sorts of ideas. Some of these cars were ahead of their time, while others were just downright weird. But one thing is for sure, these strange Dodge additions will always be remembered for their unique place in automotive history. And there you have it, some of the wildest, weirdest, and most unforgettable Dodge additions from 1977 to 2008. Whether you loved them or thought they were a little out there, there's no denying they left a lasting impression. Which one did you think was the craziest? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more awesome car content. Until next time, keep your engines running and your wheels spinning.